And if that's okay with everybody, I'd like now to introduce a good friend of mine, my darling Amna, from the long and far away Winnipeg of Canada. Thank you, Amna, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's my first time being here. I'm really excited.
A big clap for Amna and your first time.
Yes, and our temperatures right now, for those of you who want to visit me, it's like minus 40 degrees here Celsius with wind chill. So it's very, very cold these
Do
days.
you get outside?
We have to get outside to get,
Have
you
to
know,
shovel in the snow from the front yard? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, we have to shovel ourselves out of the front yard. But it's fun. People get used to it. It's usually not this cold in December. It's usually January, February, but yeah. So I'm going to share with you a story that I've never shared before, and it's from a storyteller named Celia Lottridge, who's a famous author and storyteller in Canada. And she has given me permission to share this story, which I absolutely love. But it is my first time telling this story. It's called Raja and the Four Grains of Rice. Long, long time ago, there was a Raja of a small kingdom in India. And the kingdom was doing really well. There was peace and prosperity. But the Raja was bored. Because it was so peaceful, he didn't have much to do. So one day he gathered his ministers and said, I'm going away for 3 years to discover what's beyond my kingdom and to discover the ordinariness of life. I know, my ministers, you will take care of this kingdom because you've been good to me. And then he gathered his 4 daughters. And he said the same thing to them and said, I am leaving for 3 years, and my ministers will run the kingdom, and you will be well taken care because I trust them. But before I leave, my daughters, I have a precious gift for you. And in his palm, he opened it to reveal 4 uncooked grains of rice. And then he handed them one by one to each one of his daughters. The daughters looked puzzled. Uncooked grain of rice as a precious gift? What's going on? But in reverence to their father, they didn't say anything. And then they noticed the father leaving the kingdom. He put his shawl over his shoulder and left. And while he was leaving, he noticed a few things that he had never noticed before when he was dressed as the Raja. He noticed that there was poverty and there was some struggle among certain groups, but he walked on. Back in the kingdom, one of the daughters said, she said to herself that my father has left me a grain of rice. I must honor it. So she got the palace artisans to put that grain of rice on silk, and then she hung it on one of her walls. And every night before going to bed, she would look at the grain of rice embellished with gold thread around it and pray for the safe return of her father. Another daughter, she wanted to really take care of that grain of rice. She wanted to treat it more precious than any jewels out there in the world or any gold out there in the world. So she had 7 treasure chests built from different materials, and she put of different sizes. So she put the treasure chests within each other, and the smallest one, which was a gold chest, she carefully put that grain of rice in that, and then she put it away under her bed, all 7 chests. Another daughter, she looked at that grain of rice, put it between her teeth, bit into it, and spat it out from the palace window, saying, it's just an ordinary grain of rice. What am I going to do with it? And she walked away. And finally, the last daughter, she had that grain of rice in the palm of her hand, and she thought for a long time. Now Raja returned after 3 years. And then he gathered his ministers and asked, "What have you done with my kingdom?" And he was quite pleased with what they had done. They had run the country, the kingdom in a good way. And then it was time to gather his daughters. He asked them, "What did you do with the precious gift I left you?" The first daughter said, "My father, please come with me. I want to show you my room." And then she took the Raja to her room and said, "My father, look, I have this grain of rice on my wall, hanging with gold thread around it. And every night I pray a special prayer for your safe return. And here you are, my father. You are safe." Next, the second daughter took the Raja to her room and pulled out a shiny wooden chest and said, "Look, my father, look what I've done with your precious grain of rice." And then she opened the first wooden chest, and it revealed in it another chest, and that was made from ivory. And she unlocked it and opened that one, and she said, "Look, my father, another chest, and that was made from mother of pearls." She revealed another box, opened it, unlocked it, and that inside that was a copper one. She unveiled another box, and inside that there was an iron chest. She unveiled that, and there was a silver one. Finally, she took out that small chest that was made from gold, and she said, "My father, have the honor of opening this." So when the Raja opened that chest, he noticed inside the same grain of rice that he had left her. He said, "Good, my daughter, you have done well," just like he said to the first daughter, "for you have honored and treasured my gift." While the first two daughters were talking about what they had done with the gift, the third daughter had run as fast as she could to the palace kitchen, and she asked the chef, "Please give me 1 grain of uncooked rice, quick, quick." And the chef looked so puzzled. What is she asking for? 1 grain? "Your Highness, you want just 1 grain of rice?" "Yes, come, quick, quick, quick." And then he gave her a grain of rice. She ran back as fast as she could, and huffing and puffing, she said, "My father, a grain of rice." So Raja took the grain of rice and he said, "Yes, my daughter, you have done well, because you have realized that a grain of rice is like any other grain of rice. So whether you flick it from the palace window or you borrow one from the palace kitchen, it's still a grain of rice." Then finally, it was the turn of the last daughter, and we don't know if she was the oldest, the youngest, or somewhere in the middle. She said, "My father, when you left me with the grain of rice, I thought for a long time while holding it in my palm, what is the deeper meaning of this grain of rice? Is there something special? Why would our father leave us with just 1 grain of rice?" And for a long time, I walked around holding that grain of rice in my palm. And then I thought, yes, I know the secret of this grain of rice. It's actually a seed. And the only way you benefit from a seed is by planting it. So I asked the palace experts, the gardeners, what is the best season to plant this grain of rice, which is actually a seed? So they helped me plant that grain of rice. And with that, there was a plant and I replanted it. So over the seasons, I will tell you, my father and my sisters, what I've done with it. So she took Raja and her sisters to the back of the palace where the gardens were. She took them outside, and would you believe what they saw? They saw a huge field of rice. And she said, "My father, this is the result of that 1 grain of rice. And with this field, I feed the poorest of the poorest who have no food." There was hunger in the kingdom that maybe you didn't realize. And I've taken care of the people who no one was looking after. With that, Raja said, "Good, my daughter, You have done well, for you have realized the secret of the grain of rice, and you have used that for the prosperity and peace in the kingdom by taking care of the poorest. And with that, Raja put his shawl over his shoulder and left permanently, leaving the kingdom for this daughter to run it. Thank you.
Wow, Amna, what a lesson to learn from 4 grains of rice, right? But not luckily, one of them found its way into the world.
Yes,
Well, that was the first time. It's a lovely story. It's the first time for you in the World Storytelling Cafe. We're expecting to see more of you here. And it was the first time for you telling the story. It was the first time for us to be enthralled by your storytelling. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amazing Anna.
Yes.
Amna's stories are always so wise.
You have some most interesting and talented friends.
Yes.
Indeed. Wait till you see the others. I have more of them.
And it can be corn, it can be maize, it can be any seed that is known. It can be any seed. It can be corn, it can be maize, so it's worthy. Thank you, Amna. Beautiful.
You're reading my mind, Gustavo. And not only that, it's what we are supposed to do with our gifts.